Welcome to Divorce Without Destruction Mediation Podcast.
Welcome to Divorce Without Destruction Mediation Podcast with Resolution Mediation. Tess, Worrell, and Hillary Sharpnack help Indiana couples navigate divorce and separation in a more peaceful, informed, and future-focused way through mediation. Instead of turning family conflict into courtroom battle, they help people protect their children, preserve their finances, and create agreements that support life moving forward. I'm Lisa Mosby, and today we're talking about how divorce mediation can help parents protect their children emotionally, practically, and long-term during a divorce. Thank you both for joining me again today.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Tess, let's start with you. Why do so many parents choose mediation when they're thinking about how divorce could affect their children?
I think they choose mediation because they have the idea, and I think it's appropriate, that mediation will allow them to create a more personalized parenting plan. And when we are talking with different groups about how mediation compares to the adversarial process, in that adversarial process, there's often that win versus lose. And if one attorney wins, meaning gets more parenting time or gets more money for the children, that comes from the other parent. So the other parent is hurt. And how do children feel about somebody who hurts their parent? They now feel that way about the first parent. And that battle can go on for a year to 4 years. So children are pitted between the parents and kind of step into the role of protecting one parent from the other for a huge percentage of their childhood. And I think as parents recognize the destruction, as parents who were children of divorce remember what they went through, they want something different. And in mediation, they have the chance to decide, here's how we want to take care of our children. Here's how we can say, I am my best parent at these times. Other person can say, I am my best at parenting at these times. So how do we combine those? And then how do we resource each other for those gaps? And because we're listening to concerns parents have about themselves or the other parent, we can build those into the parenting plan. We don't ignore them. We try to address them in the most productive ways. And we have a really wonderful process that Hillary's going to talk about that takes it to another level.
Yeah, we offer a process called child inclusive mediation. And we always quickly say that does not mean the children are participating in the mediation sessions. It is a process that was developed out of Australia, actually. But the person who has developed that training has offered this training worldwide. And we work with two really great child consultants who have gone through this training to be child inclusive mediation consultants. And in the process, they, being the child consultants, are really kind of the voice of the children. So the children have an opportunity to voice, as parents are divorcing or separating, to voice their concerns and their fears or their hopes and their goals. And they get to voice those things to the child consultant. And then the child consultant gets to then take back that information and kind of summarize it and provide it to us as the mediators, but to the parents. And so that as they're going through the parenting plan and making decisions around the children, they have the input from the children kind of in the back of their mind. The children aren't the decision makers. They don't get to be the decision makers because the parents, it's their job to do that. But again, we as the mediators and the parents kind of know what children are thinking and feeling. And so we try to incorporate that and help the clients incorporate what the children want or hope for as much as possible.
I would imagine there's times when children get overlooked during these situations because the parents' emotions are running so high. So
Yes.
including them and letting the parents know where they're coming from is genius. I mean, beyond brilliant. And it's all so new to me, but I applaud you for bringing this into your practice. What are some of the biggest challenges children struggle with during and after divorce that you've seen?
I think they tend to struggle to adjust to life in two homes. For anybody who's traveled a lot for work and lived out of a suitcase and had to make sure they had all their stuff when they left one place to go to another, that's the kind of day-to-day tension children are living under. Just how do I manage getting my cello between the houses if, on this parenting plan? And so that's one area where we try to help parents think proactively about how to equip their children. I think children also struggle to know how to remain a child. In destructive divorce, a side effect of that can often be, especially if there's a deeply wounded parent, that the parent-child relationship gets flipped. The child becomes the comforter of the parent. The child becomes the protector of the parent. And so what we are always trying to do, and I think the child inclusive mediation helps because we have this child consultant who's also working with the parents. If the parents have some gaps in their parenting, the child consultant can kind of help instruct the parents how to parent more effectively and understand how to maintain that parent-child appropriate role. I think children struggle with loneliness. They struggle with grieving the loss of their family. They struggle with all the different changes. But what we know, and here's where the focus of our practice really is laser focused, is if we can help parents have as their highest priority working together for the sake of the children, children will do okay. Children's security comes from their parents' relationship. If the parent-marital relationship isn't there anymore, that's problematic unless the co-parenting relationship steps in. And if they have a good co-parenting relationship and children feel secure, children know I can openly love both my parents, I can enjoy time with both my parents never put me in the middle or resent me for liking the other parent. If the parents can work together for the sake of the children are going to do just fine.
What kinds of parenting plans and family routines are usually discussed during mediation?
A lot of different options. I think the biggest key is our job as mediators is to really listen to kind of what the parents' lives are, in terms of work schedules, in terms of children's activities, school schedules. All of that kind of is the initial focus of, okay, what parenting plan works for the two of you, especially if you have one parent who travels a lot for work and is away a lot. How do we still ensure quality time once that parent is back? So I'm going to let Tess speak to more kind of the specific plans, but I think, again, the biggest goal for us is to really find a creative plan that works for that individual family.
Often what we'll start is I'm a big whiteboarder. So we just put the days of the week up on the board over the course of a month and just talk about, okay, what makes sense? And we do help parents understand that different plans are typically better at different developmental stages. The younger children are, the more frequently they need to see both parents. As they get older, the frequency matters less, but the length of time matters more. They kind of need to settle in and have ongoing time with a parent before transitioning. So that's a big factor that gets considered, but also, work schedules, children's activity schedules. It's not uncommon for our parents to have, okay, here's when I'm kind of on duty to provide the care for children these days and other parents on duty these days, but they're still seeing children because they're still helping get children, these two children to this activity and these two children to this activity. They're still joining forces to be involved in all the levels of their children's lives. And that's pretty wonderful to see. When there are parents that have unique problems like substance abuse or other issues that create concern for everyone involved in the parenting, we do try to craft plans where the person with the substance issue is parenting at their best moments, and they're not necessarily being challenged to try and parent when they're not as able to parent, which brings more security to that other parent. They're more able to support the parent in parenting when they can, if they know when the parent can't parent, children are going to be with me and I can know they're secure. So we try, as Hillary was saying, to move into the unique needs of each family and say, what's the best we can do here?
I see from a legal perspective that it's so much more about the money and the things and the assets. This approach that you are taking within your company, just how you've put the children first, is so much more important and more productive. Can you share with us why it's so important for parents to think beyond the divorce itself and focus on co-parenting relationships that continue long after the divorce is over?
Well, if for nothing else, we now have pretty good research that shows when parents are able to put children first and focus on the children, not only do the children do better, which is what we all want, but the parents do too. They do better financially, they do better in emotionally adjusting to the divorce, and they do better in overall life advancement. And so, if they just want to be selfish, you will do better as a person if you can set aside focusing on yourself and instead focus on your children. And what we have found is if people can't do that, if they can't get outside their own selfishness, they really can't mediate. So it's a pretty good litmus test for whether they are able to mediate or not.
And how does mediation help parents work through disagreements about schedules, communication, or parenting decisions without escalating that conflict?
I don't have a great answer.
Well, I
Off
think
top.
it's getting back at uncovering what are the fears, what are the concerns. And the more we can put those into concrete elements, that then allows the opportunity to try to begin addressing those. Also, I think the role of the child consultant is huge here, because if one parent says, I am really concerned about children being with other parent because, they bring that up to the child consultant, and the child consultant has that in mind and both of ours are women. We'd love to have some men, but as she is talking to children and is exploring that, and it is extraordinarily helpful, because if the child consultant comes back and says to other parent, yes, children are concerned about this, because other parent will say, oh, first parent's just making that up because they want more time. If the child consultant is able to say, no, this is a concern for children, but here are things you can do to address that concern, that's huge. Also, if child consultant comes back and says, parent A, I know you're really worried about that. It turns out your children are not. That helps as well. So that child consultant piece can be huge when parents are in significant conflict over what to do. But again, I think the best thing mediation does is we get into the days, we get into the concerns, we get into the what about this is a problem. And because we make it more concrete in terms of conversation, we are able to get to more concrete answers. I don't know if that helps.
It does. It really does. You brought it all together for me. And I want to bring this together for the audience as well. Can you share an example of something parents did during a mediation that helped create more stability or reassurance for their children?
Well, I have one story that I love. Beginning a mediation, mom walked in and she said, I just want to tell you, Father is not getting a single day of parenting time. I've done all the care for our 3-year-old. He will not have a moment. And if you bring that up, I'm walking out of mediation. I'm like, oh, golly, we're going to have some difficulty here. Did some one-on-one conversation with her about her concerns, did some one-on-one conversation with dad. Her deepest need was she had been a stay-at-home mom. She did not want to lose the couple of years before son went to kindergarten. And once dad understood that, and he already knew that, but he understood it at a deeper level, he was able to walk into mediation and say, look, I want you to be home with son too. And here's what I'm willing to do financially so you can stay home and not have to work until he goes to kindergarten. And then we need to build a plan for how you start becoming financially independent then. And one of his major concerns was he had a business that one lawyer had told him, you're going to have to sell the business and close it in order to create this financial distribution of assets. He said, if I can do that for you, can I keep the business and I'll make sure you get money you need? Because they were able to share their deepest concerns and he was willing to make sure she had time with son that was precious to her, she then was more in agreement with him having more parenting time and learning how to be dad. Because he said, I've worked so hard, I haven't been there much, but I want to take this on. We ended up with a transition parenting plan that within a certain amount of time, they were pretty evenly parenting. And we wrote up the whole agreement. They came back to sign the agreement and she got there before he did. So she walked in and she signed the agreement and kind of went out the back door of our office as he came in the front door, and he came running in and said, where's wife? And I said, oh, she just went out there. And he went out, and I just wanted to make sure things were okay. So I kind of looked out the window and it was clear he was animatedly sharing a story, I'm assuming about their son, with mom, and they're laughing. He kisses her on the cheek, comes back in the office, signs the agreement, and goes out the front door. That was about 10 years ago. They have never ended up back in court. Mm-hmm. And I just love that. And that's not uncommon, is it?
No, not at all. I think the majority of our couples, even when they are not walking away, kissing each other on the cheek, and they're not going to be the best of friends, they still walk away with, again, that confidence of, okay, we're still a team and we can do this for the sake of the kids. We don't have to talk every day. We may not even have to talk face to face. Maybe we're communicating through an app, or maybe we're, texting, or whatever the case is. But we've set that foundation for them to, again, have that confidence of, we are still a family. It's now a redefined family, and we are moving forward still as a family. So we, as the parents, have to make this work for the sake of the kids. And we've helped provide different tools and resources. And again, always coming back to just building that confidence that they can do this. One other piece that we often do with couples is, when you talked about conflict levels, when there is high conflict, a lot of times it is fear driven. And as Tess mentioned, we're trying to get at what is that root of the fear. And a lot of times we are just kind of reframing things for parents, not to, discredit what they're saying or to invalidate what they're saying, but just to provide a different perspective that perhaps where the other parent is possibly coming from or feeling, etc. Again, it's bringing it back to, you're still a team, you're still a family. And how do you work together moving forward? It's not just about you. You're not just the better parent. The other parent brings different strengths and different tools than you do. And so working together is ultimately the best for the children.
And the children are a combination of both of you. Mm-hmm. So honor in your child what is of that other parent, because that's who your child is.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Tess. I want to thank you both for sharing how you create such a safe space and allow people to be vulnerable at a really difficult time, and help them to connect and communicate. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
That's it for today's episode of Divorce Without Destruction Mediation Podcast with Resolution Mediation. If you'd like to learn more about Tess Worrell or Hillary Sharpnack and the mediation services they offer across Indiana, visit resolutionmediationin.com. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe to the show, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.